everyone liked me when I said those things. People reacted in a positive way, and boys seemed to like it when I said these things. Yeah, it was not good. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you wanted to join me today, because today is going to be kind of a story time-esque kind of video. I am going to tell you the story of how I started out as an anti-vegan and how I evolved into a 100% definitely vegan for life kind of girl. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to take you guys through every kind of teenage and childhood trauma. But before we get started, this video is sponsored by no other than Skillshare. I'm an actual YouTuber, you guys. Can you believe? Skillshare is an online learning community where you can find tons of online classes where you can improve skills you already have, or you can learn completely new skills. It gains you access to thousands of classes in all different kinds of category: lifestyle, creativity, management, photography, just everything. The things that I have found to be really relevant for me have been tutorials on martial arts training, because my taekwondo training is suspended at the moment. I've also been looking into photography classes to improve skills that I already have, and I have been looking up new methods and techniques when it comes to vegan cooking. So thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I'm definitely on board, and the first 1,000 people to use the link down below will get 2 months subscription for free. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, so let's start off completely at the beginning. I was a very emotional girl when I was a child, and we lived very close to a forest where there were tons of ducks, and I always called the ducks my friends, and I've always been like a very animal lover-esque kind of girl. And when I was about 10, I decided that I wanted to be vegetarian because I felt really bad for the animals. So the first time I ever thought about food and meat and animals, it was an ethical connection. And it lasted for about a month, 3 weeks or something like that. Do I have just mascara? I do. Because the thing is, when you're 10 years old, not that many 10-year-old children are able to do something if no one else around them are doing it as well. We just want to fit in, we just want to belong somewhere, you guys. And I remember very vividly that everyone I knew would ask me like teasing questions like, aren't you missing like burgers, aren't you missing bacon? And may I remind you, at this point, it was in 2004, I think, there were no Beyond Meat burger patties. There were only tofu and vegetables. I got so many questions like, aren't you missing this, aren't you missing that? And no one, as I remember it, were supportive in the way that they wanted to do it with me. It was all, she can do whatever she wants, but we're not gonna change. It was kind of that vibe I was getting, if I remember correctly. But I was 10 years old, so I mean, might have been different, but that's just how I remember it. And I stopped being vegetarian after a short while because it was just so difficult, because no one else was doing it. A short while after I ended my vegetarian journey, I realized that people would socially reward me if I said things like, oh, I like giant steaks, oh, everything has to have bacon on it, oh, I just miss meat. And people would react positively to this. They would laugh, they would smile, they would generally be more positively charged towards me. Just before we get any further into it, this is my story. This has not, I'm not saying at any point in time that this is something that has to happen to you. This is something that happens to everyone. Everyone is like this. This is just my experience of life. This is my story, and I'm not commenting upon anyone else's experience of life. Cool. So that was childhood. Ka-ching. I sort of took these values or experiences with me into my early teenage years, where I kept saying stuff like, oh, I just love meat, oh, I just love cheese, oh, everything has to have bacon on it. And not only saying it, but also doing it. When we were out in restaurants, I would order the biggest piece of meat because everyone else would be really excited about it. Everyone else would be kind of cheering me on to do it. And again, you're a child, you're a young teen, you do things that makes other people like you. That's sort of what it is. As I grew older, around the age of 16, the just ordering big steaks had evolved into a sort of misogynistic view upon women, if it makes any sense, because I started really honestly believing stuff like a woman has to be able to cook meat, otherwise she should be ashamed of herself. And I would publicly say things like women belong in the kitchen because everyone liked me when I said those things. People reacted in a positive way, and boys seemed to like it when I said these things. Yeah, it was not good. These values were sort of the result of many, many years of early experiences and what punishes you socially and what rewards you socially. I sort of developed problems with eating, and I started eating much less. So at one point I had a diet that consisted, and I'm not kidding, of 3 pieces of feta, I don't know, a chicken breast or something for a day. I also remember vividly when I was in boarding school around age 15, 14, that one of my friends were talking about how one of her friends and her went vegan for a day. That was the first time I ever heard someone say the word vegan. And they claimed that they fainted from starvation because they were vegan for one day. And that sort of cemented an idea in my head that you cannot live without animal products, that the absence of animal products will automatically make you unhealthy. And even though it wasn't a conscious decision, that sort of stayed with me all the way up to my early adulthood years. So early adult years, I started at uni, which was a good thing because I met some people at uni who just gradually changed my mind so much and helped me evolve into this person that I am now. I started to shed these opinions about what women should do and what women should wear and what women should eat and how they should behave, and all this sort of stuff sort of slowly just faded away, luckily. So during my first years at uni, I was in a really toxic relationship with a guy who loved killing his own animals, butchering his own animals, hunting, all this kind of stuff. He had a lot of friends and they all did this together, and I would gladly eat all the meat that he got. And it was also in the beginning of my years at uni that I stumbled upon zero waste and sustainability. And I think it was in the beginning of 2015 that I started my sustainability journey zero waste blog, and a couple of months after I started it, I gave my first lecture about zero waste and my zero waste lifestyle. I was still eating meat and dairy all the time. I would take my jars to the butcher and get meat zero waste, and I would take my jars to the cheese shop and get cheese bits and whatnot. And to me at this point, this was totally fine, perfect zero waste living, goals, sustainability, Earth Mama. And shortly after I had gained some momentum online, I started receiving a lot of criticism for the way that I was eating, for my diet, for what I was promoting as sustainable and sustainable food choices, and that didn't go super well. I reacted very poorly. I made a video about why I would never go vegan. Yes. And in that video I went through every single basic myth about nutrition that you could possibly think of. We have canine teeth to tear flesh apart. I went through the we cannot survive and sustain ourselves on a plant-based diet. Our brains are going to die because we need the fat from animal products to sort of stimulate our brains. It's the circle of nature, and we have food chains that allow us to be on top while other animals are in the bottom. I went through every single cliche in the book, and I got a lot of comments about that, and it was so bad that I ended up taking the video down a couple of weeks after that, because I had never, regarding food, been challenged at all whatsoever, and suddenly it felt like everyone were on my case, and I wasn't emotionally prepared to actually debate nutrition and diet at all. So I just ended up taking it down just that. And what that did to me was it became much harder for me to shed my ideas of what veganism was. That's a very childish way of acting, but it's also very human. And as a result, I started to put meat and dairy consumption on this pedestal, and it became much harder for me to refuse it because it just had this meaning, something that I really needed to hold on to because people wanted to take it away from me. Because diet and food is so much more than substance. It's culture and traditions and social life. It's so many things. So now we are starting to move into an era where I began opening up more on this channel about my diet and nutrition and how I ate and how I felt and whatnot. So some of these things might be old news, some of these things you might have heard in another video, but there's also things that I haven't mentioned, so we'll keep going. So a couple of months after I posted my why I'm never going vegan video, I started to go vegetarian because I felt so guilty and so bad for going out there giving lectures about sustainability and zero waste when I was consuming products every day that I started to realize was countering everything I was saying when I was at work. And I spent a lot of time trying to camouflage my meat consumption on social media because I didn't want people to criticize me, and rather than, you know, changing my diet and listening to the criticism, I just sort of lied a lot actually, which was unideal. And me going vegetarian for the second time in my life was also a really challenging thing because I was still surrounded by a lot of people who were very unsupportive. I remember having tons of arguments and fights with now my ex-boyfriend because he felt so sick of making 2 meals because he didn't want to give up meat ever. So he kept making the same meals for himself, and then he cooked something else for me. I had to go in the kitchen after he made dinner and make my own dinner. So again, very little support. Of course, it was better because I was older and I was able to request more things and to talk with more people, but I still remember it as being really challenging. And I also fell into meat accidents very often whenever I was under pressure or stressed out or really sad or just generally down. I would order animal products and meat still, even though I labeled myself as a vegetarian. I went vegetarian for the environment, and I sort of had this mentality that I'm cutting out so much meat, I am saving the world of so much CO2 and methane, so having it once in a while won't hurt anyone, because there was no ethical connection to my experience with vegetarianism or veganism at this point whatsoever, so I felt that was a-okay. I still was ashamed, so maybe I didn't feel it was okay, because I never really, a lot of the things I never really told anyone, or I didn't post it on social media obviously, and I've kind of felt bad every time I did it, so I think I knew that it wasn't ideal. My road, as you may have learned, to veganism has been a bumpy ass ride. I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend, almost husband at this point, and like for tons of different reasons. After we broke up, I became more and more certain that I wanted to keep doing this, and I sort of started to cut all kinds of products out of my life as well. I didn't go vegan overnight, as you can tell, but after that breakup, I stopped eating meat altogether. I stopped eating tons of different dairy products. I didn't just stop eating dairy products altogether, but I sort of transitioned very slowly, started buying vegan butter, started buying vegan milk, and then just slowly transitioned. I think cheese was one of the last things I gave up. Then I want to talk about what happened a couple of months after all of this, or like this slow transition. I was out on town and I was kind of drunk, and I ended up going to a fast food restaurant, and I just ordered a chicken burger because I was in that sort of mood where no one can decide what I eat. So I ordered a chicken burger and some nuggets or something, just tons of chicken that I hadn't had for ages. And I opened the burger and I just started crying hysterically. I think this was the first time since I was a little girl that I thought about the animals as sentient beings and not as products or objects, and I felt just this overwhelming emotional connection to the animals that were completely unrecognizable in my burger, and I felt just such an overwhelming injustice because I thought about, well, who chooses who lives and who dies? I do, because I gave these people my money and they are using my money to kill more animals. It was something that I'd never really felt that strongly before. And honestly, and this is going to sound super sobby or whatnot, but I wasn't in connection with my own emotional self for such a long time. And this was the first time since before I sort of took all these other notions and values upon me that I was thinking about, well, what do I actually believe? What do I actually, underneath all these years of prejudice and misconceptions and myths, what is my stance in all of this? And I felt so connected to these animals in the industry. I felt so sorry for them. And I also felt an emotional connection to myself, honestly, because I had been a child that had felt all of these things so much, but no one had been there and no one had helped me to sort of translate my thoughts into action. And suddenly I was that adult myself. Yeah, I know, I'm sort of getting kind of like, but it's something that I haven't thought about, honestly, just before sitting down and talking about it like in a timeline-ish manner. But that's the truth, and it's something that really, really scares me, honestly, because ever since I was a little child, I wanted people to like me. I wanted to belong, and I did everything I could for people to like me. So I started to believing things that I knew would get people to like me, and I hid myself underneath all of these ideas and values, and sitting there drunk off my ass looking at this chicken burger, I suddenly felt like that girl again. I suddenly felt all of these things. I suddenly remembered that I used to call animals my friends, and I used to really love them, not just, cats and dogs, but all kinds of animals, also animals that you would usually eat. And suddenly I was that person again, and it felt so freeing, and I felt so new, and it was really, really weird. And I don't know if it was like the 10 shots I did, or if it was just like this sort of eureka moment, but it never left me again. For me, that moment symbolizes the day I went vegan. And I didn't go vegan overnight. It took many months after this where I would sort of phase out stuff, where I would try my best and then fail and then go back and then go a little bit forward again. But it most definitely marks the day that I started to think of myself as an ethical vegan. Sometimes we let people shape us so much that we kind of forget ourselves in it, and that was definitely what happened to me. So that situation led me to be this emotional vegan girl that I am right now. And honestly, all it took for me was one very, very drunk night, a eureka moment, and freedom. Suddenly I was in a place where I had Jens, amazing, supportive boyfriend, just the best friends in the world. And even though not all my friends are vegan or vegetarian, they understand me and they know not to say hurtful things to me or say things like, don't you miss bacon? Because honestly, I can't and I don't. Also, I have tons of friends who have started to either cut out meat or dairy a little bit or gone completely vegan or vegetarian because of their own stuff, because they're going through their own things or for their own reasons. And that's just so amazing. So I definitely think that it has been a journey I have had to go through, but over time, it has also become easier to go vegan or vegetarian because we have so much more information now. We have so much more just resources and so many products that can help us, and that has also definitely played a role in how easy it is for a lot of people, especially me and myself and people I know around me. I can see it happening. So that's really, really cool. So how am I going to make sure that I don't end up in the same box with the other ex-vegans? I have a couple of ideas here. Okay, but also I just want to make clear, I don't know what will happen in the future. I am not a, what are they called with, like the crystal ball? I can't see into the future, that's what I wanted to say. It's a fortune teller. I can't see into the future, so I don't know with 100% certainty that I will stay vegan for life, but that is 100% my ambition, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that happens. And there's a couple of different ways of doing that. First of all, using veganism or being vegan as your only personality trait is very, very unhealthy. Being vegan as a person, and that's the only thing that you do, is really unhealthy. And for me, it's super, super important if I have to keep being motivated and inspired and keep doing what I do and my job and everything, and also just my personal life. I have to have other interests. I need other things. So I train martial arts. I do climbing. I play in Dungeons and Dragons with my boyfriend. There's tons of other things that define me, not just being vegan, that is not everything that is to me. And I feel sometimes when I'm talking to people who don't know me very well, they assume that all I am is a vegan or an environmentalist. And I'm not. I'm so many other things. I've seen so many online activists and vegan influencers telling their subscribers to keep watching slaughterhouse footage even though they are vegan. Keep watching like examples of animal cruelty even though that they have made the transition. And I just find that to be intensely bad advice. Because there is, of course, like everything in moderation. Of course, if you are completely oblivious to all the animal cruelty that is happening in the world, you should take it upon yourself to educate yourself upon these topics. You should definitely watch some of these things because it will change your mind. It will, I hope, stir something inside you that just resembles solidarity. And it's so important that we as the public are aware of the horrors that are happening because we want these kinds of products on our plates. Super important. But as a vegan, to keep watching this sort of thing, I think is intensely unhealthy. And there was a study conducted on PETA activists that showed that the activists that kept watching these things, that kept witnessing the horrors over and over again, were more likely to experience emotional numbness or burnout. I watch very, very little footage. I haven't even watched Earthlings because I'm sick to my stomach just watching the trailer. And I know it's happening. And because I know, and I have like the occasional reminder where I sort of see something on social media, I'm like, yeah, that's why I do this. But keep watching it, keep seeking it out. I think it's a bad idea. And I don't for anything in the world want to experience emotional burnout when it comes to this, because it's my life, it's my passion, it's my job. I care about it so, so much. And just thinking about caring about it less breaks my heart. So in order for that not to happen, I will sort of shield myself and protect myself a little bit from all of these things. And I am not watching YouTubers who show a lot of slaughterhouse footage, because that information is not necessarily directed towards me. I am a vegan. I am this already. I don't need more convincing. But it's definitely important, if you haven't watched any of this, if you haven't made the connection, it makes total sense to see some of it, because honestly, I think it's kind of our duty as citizens in the world. If you are consuming these products, you should know them, where they are coming from. Same with fast fashion. If you're wearing H&M, you should know how it's made. So start up one place where you know, okay, cool, I can cut out dairy, or okay, cool, I can cut out beef, and then work your way up from there. Sometimes it also works to go straight overnight, and if you can do that, that would be amazing, cool. I was just not that person, never going to be that person. My development is a constant ladder of steps where everything just comes in its own pace, and that's okay. And I also think that is something that's going to make me vegan for life. So that was my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Sorry it was a little bit long, but I just really wanted to cover all of this ground, really wanted to make sure that I explain things properly. And I think I've done that, but maybe I haven't. If you have any questions, or if you have any personal experience you would like to share, leave me a comment down below and let's talk about all of this together. I have seen so many of you guys being very, oh, maybe this is nothing to you, but I'm sort of become vegetarian. I'm kind of proud of it. It's everything to me. I love when you tell me this, and I don't look down upon the first steps because I was there myself and I did a horrible job at it at first, but it's just human. And it might seem like a small step because now I am 100% vegan, never going back, but I don't look down upon these first steps because I respect those first steps so much. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So you guys are the best. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Take really good care of yourselves and stay safe. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!